I hope he's confident.
He is, so I think you could probably
Okay, so
protect
she's-
him enough with like trying to sell.
Okay, folks, we
Yeah,
are going to begin our special meeting, so I'm gonna call the meeting to order, and I want to, ask everybody if they stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And I'd like a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Dawn, I'd like a second for that.
Support.
Barb, all in favor?
Aye.
Any discussion? Okay. And then, recognition of visitors, do we have any? Okay, then we will go right to our discussion items, scope of the future bond, and I'm gonna turn it over to Dr. Vanderjagt to begin.
Thank you. Thanks, board, for coming in, especially the meeting tonight. I know there's a lot going on, not only tonight, but this time of year. It's a busy time of year. We have spent nearly 14 months trying to prepare information for the board to make a decision on what are the next steps for Hudsonville and for our kids. It's been a great journey, building relationships, talking to parents, meet with kids, meet with community members. We've had surveys of our students, we've had surveys of our community, we've had focus groups, a lot of information. Just recently, we had another survey that was conducted to give the board more information. Knowing all that information, we have a recommendation tonight for how to move forward with this information. Some of the latest information really gave us an in-depth look at not just our parents and students and those that are directly impacted in schools now, but we had a chance to do a broader survey to get more information. With that information comes really two pieces of information. Is the timing right, and then is maybe the dollar and the scope right? At this point, I really think the recommendation to the board would be, I think we have time to take all of that information in and say, okay, let's really get a good plan moving forward. This is not a time to say, hey, we think this will work, let's try it. This is the time to say, let's take this information and use it and move forward to what the best course of action would be. Just a couple other pieces of information. We do know that there's many election cycles at this point. We have opportunities that we go for a request in November of this year. We could go in August of this year. It's kind of late for that because of the timing of everything. But again, we can go in November of this year, which is a gubernatorial and pretty large election. We could wait and go next May, which is more of a traditional cycle that Hudsonville has experienced with non-homestead and sinking fund villages in the past. And then we could wait even longer and say, when is the time right? The economy draws a lot of those conversations. There are a lot of political climates out there that could also impact this decision. This November is a pretty big election. Traditionally, we look at big elections and say this is an opportunity to get more people to speak their mind, to speak their voice, and have their vote in this conversation. The last time we went for bond issue was November of 2019. It was not a gubernatorial presidential election. It was pre-COVID. It was before absentee ballots were readily accessible and were used by most people. And it was a very successful vote. It was still a large vote, but it went great. It's hard to compare what the next November cycle might look like compared to the last election cycle. So with that, we also know there are some ballot items that will be on the ballot. Some requests will be on the ballot, not only August, but again in November. Most recently, the conversation with Ottawa County regarding Parks and Recs and what that looks like for an August renewal, and then a November request for an increase. Sometimes that impacts other elections that take place at the same time. That's information that was most recently shared with me about an hour ago. So things evolve and things change. I just shared with Pat as we were sitting here kind of going, like, oh, okay, so you learn things every day. We do think it's important to continue to gather data so the board makes the best decision possible. We do know the board, hopefully, we'll still be very supportive of our kids. As we have an election cycle, I know we have a couple board members that are up for election, and what does that look like moving forward? Hopefully, continue. We have a really strong board. We've had some maybe in the past, we've had some things that we've worked through, but we're in a really good spot as a district, as a board, as an administration, and that communication, I think, is important when it comes to a bond vote. I'll make a recommendation to the board and really want to hear from what the board's thoughts are. We do not have to take a vote tonight. I'm not asking to take a vote on when, but feedback from everybody is important so that we have the direction to go forward. Having conversations with our partners with OAK and GMB, they just have a strong connection with what takes place outside of Hudsonville, but we're responsible for our kids and the future kids and the future of the district. We are truly a destination district, and we want people to realize this is the place that they want to send their kids, not just in 10 years, but their kids' kids want to go here, so forth. Having said that, the recommendation tonight would be to maybe target May of 2027 as an opportunity to ask our voters, what does this look like for a bond issue for the district? The scope, I wouldn't ask you to, and we've spent a lot of time on individual ideas. We've sharpened our pencil, I think was a comment that was made, and really got it to a manageable number that does a lot for our kids, does a lot for future kids, to be honest with you, in our district. So the target of May of 2027, clearly that decision can even be prolonged as we move forward. But at some point, the decision has to be made of, let's go for it. While that happens, we have a lot of work on our end to make sure the board is prepared to make that decision. We've had conversations with other districts that have been successful, some have not. Some have done a lot of work, and we want to utilize some of those experiences and kind of see what can be best for us. We'll continue to gather data, we'll continue to seek feedback, we'll continue to educate our community on the desires of what we might have as a district, and really build a plan and kind of a schedule and how to continue to promote our district, but promote what the needs might be. So right now, I know maybe a week ago, for some maybe 2 days ago, it's like, okay, what are we gonna include, what are we not gonna include? I don't think we're there right now. There's too many questions. I do think we can gather data and continue to do a good job of getting information regarding survey information and bring it back to the board. We have plans when it comes to, I would say, PR. We have plans when it comes to the production of materials to educate our community, what areas we want to make sure we define what we're doing. When you make a decision that you have had conversations about the impact it's going to have on a particular part of the community, say development of areas over by the Riley campus, we need to really be able to share exactly what that looks like. When people make decisions, they need to know not just what we know, but what we know that we can share and paint that picture. And I think we can do a good job doing that. So at this point, I know I've said a lot. I know we've had plenty of questions from the board. What does this look like? I know I'm not going to identify a board member, but with the results we have in the survey, what are other districts that had similar results? What was their success rate? There's so many different variables and when, and so I think that's a great question, and I wish there was a direct correlation. There might be a causation, but the correlation is really hard to try to figure out. In our community is something I know all of you respect their opinions and want to be there to serve them. That's why you're here. So that's kind of where we are. I hope that kind of paints the picture. I've kind of gone around circles, but instead of sitting here and say, okay, what are important projects to do? I think more importantly, the timeline is, let's see how November plays out. But between now and then, I talked to somebody that wants to be involved and wants to really help out. And the response was, if you think November is the time, then we have to start today. And if you think May is the time, then we can wait until tomorrow. So it's that kind of work that has to happen. And that's interesting. I think we have a very robust administrative team, our central office staff, and getting everybody involved in this process as we move forward. So that's a lot. We'd be happy to entertain questions, and then it would really be nice to have feedback and just what board members think. I don't need to spend 45 minutes doing it, but that's all
and we're prepared to take whatever time we need today. And I've had an opportunity to talk with all of you over the last week. And so I know what each one of you are thinking. Each one of you doesn't know exactly what the other said to me, but I will tell you this, that everybody was on the same page, in the same paragraph when it came to the feedback that I got. And so anyone who has anything that they'd like to, bring to the other board members, absolutely, let us know. We're not gonna, as I said, we're not gonna go, and Dr. Vanderjack said that we're not gonna look at specific items now and that kind of stuff, but overall, just thoughts about what you've heard and what you've seen over the last week would be welcome.
Can I make one quick comment that I think was the most impressive? I've talked to several of you, not all of you, I know, Mr. Chansky has, but the comment that I heard consistent was, as a board, whatever we decide, that's what we're behind. I know you say that a lot when there's votes. Like, hey, once the decision's made, that's what we do. But it was encouraging going to that before to say, listen, whatever we're doing this together. I appreciate that, thank you.
Will there be anything else in May? If I remember correctly, our sinking fund millage, am I correct, that was a 5-year, or which one was the 5-year? I'm sorry.
Sinking fund was 5, and then the non-homestead was 4, and neither one of them were up this year, which was like just nice this week.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, what'd you do on Tuesday? I'm like, I didn't have to watch the polls. And then next year's the same, so we don't have anything on the next year. And I do wanna confer with the ISD, they might be doing something on the ballot, but I don't know if it's May or the next August or November, but those conversations will happen tomorrow after this conversation. Okay. For us, we don't have anything. Good question.
Well, a couple of thoughts I'd share. I actually think, looking back at the data around how the district was done in November bonds, especially the last one, that if we had, I'm not proposing that we do, I think I'm aligned with everybody else, but I actually think had we gone forward, it would have passed. Now, having said that, it would have been a significant toll on the district, on the staff, everybody, and on you, as we're doing strategic planning at the same time, and really want to have a robust strategic plan, would have been a big toll on the district, a big drain of energy and time and resources. But I do think it would have gone through. But I think I also support, as I've told others, pausing, waiting till May, doing it right, and doing it well, and so forth. A thought on the EPIC MRA. I mean, I guess it's a little bit like AI. You get out of it what you put into it. The survey sample size. I mean, it was a 400-person sample size, so it's not small. But I actually think our surveys that you conducted were more robust than what I saw from EPIC. So that's not to be critical of us going forward and doing the EPIC survey. I think we've learned through that, and I think we've learned what kind of input we need to give them in order, as we go into May, in order to get robust output from them. Because again, 400, not a big sample size for the district. I think you've had more in surveys, and the breakdown, the demographic breakdown, and so forth. I wasn't seeing the evidence of it. So anyway, we go that path again. I think we've learned, and we can tailor our questions or our input to them so we get good output. So this is just I do think, we've talked about the buckets, the 144 million bucket with the AC and the upgrades to the district, which are things that we need in order to maintain a quality of educational environment that we have to have. We know that. And then there are other kind of wants that we want, right? I mean, cover over an athletic field or whatever the case may be. And I do think it's good to have the time to craft that, put that together and craft it into the right combination of needs and wants, and put the thought and energy to that. That'll make it successful in May. So I think it was a good process that you and everybody went through, and I think it'll yield the right results. And I think we've learned a couple things along the way. So.
I actually really appreciated the report, and there's some good feedback. I think there's several opportunities for educating the community. some of the questions where there's a pretty high percentage of undecided or don't know, oh, let's spend the time to educate them on it and talk about how good our test scores are compared to neighboring districts and those types of things. So there's some good nuggets that we can pull out of this, and like Ken, I feel pretty confident that it would have passed in November, but I think it probably is very wise to do it right and make sure we don't just sneak past, but we've got a good margin there, so. we got
And, you know,
some
when
good
we,
stuff.
when we conducted our surveys, we could really describe the more of the why, of what's included. With a phone call survey, you can't read a paragraph and ask somebody, so we did have enough to tell, so we can continue to tell our story.
Exactly, there's a lot of good stories to tell
Yeah.
based upon some of the answers here, so, and not just as it relates to the bond, but I just think the district in general.
I shared, to pick up on your point, Nick, I have a son that was in Kentwood, they went for a bond in May 34th, whatever the date was. And, he just happened to get a flyer in the mailbox one day when I was over there. And I shared that with Doug, and to your point, they were, those themes, they had a really succinct, here's what the bond is about, very succinct. They were emphasizing that they were a destination district down there. They emphasized key pieces of information around there over and above the bond that I think was telling a good story. They were really working to tell a good story about the district in general.
Yeah.
To their, to their families and so forth. So I think you're right, there's some key things that we can pick up on, so.
Yeah, I agree, and I fully support the decision that we've all collectively made to push this until May. I think what was interesting to me is most parents of students here were supportive, but also even to dig a little bit deeper, some of the concerns that the general population had were consistent with other concerns that parents had, right, around, some of the things I called out. So I think as we progress towards next May, we take a closer look at those things and see if there's anything we can do, whether it's changing, we don't need to talk about this now, but whether it's changing the scope of the bond or how we communicate what it is we're doing and why it's important to students in our community. So I thought that was kind of a telling sign that we're collecting all the right information to improve as we progress.
Yeah, and I think for people who aren't as aware of the whole operational funds versus bond funds, that is always a piece that we're constantly trying to educate on, because they see that as one and the same. And so it's again, a reminder that that's a piece of what we're gonna continue to be doing, is explain how that's different than, what the teachers are receiving for pay and, the student foundation allowance and all of those things. A lot of that is right now in the legislation that they're talking about cuts to different funds. And again, another reason why I think with the emphasis on these potential, either on the ballot themselves or the conversations in the legislature, I think there might be some misspeaking on some things in that conversation, and I think wisely, delaying past that and getting to real facts is going to be helpful for us. And what about OAK and GMB? You guys have put a lot of work into this point, but I'm assuming this small delay isn't gonna significantly change the direction that you need to go.
No, and I think truthfully, I think it's a great idea to give yourself the time to gather the evidence and work with the community and make smart decisions. So, no, I think it's great, absolutely. Just gives us time to help out and jump in.
Good answer.
I didn't expect anything else, but I want to see your face.
I appreciate it. They want it to pass as much as they want it to, right? So,
And maybe just to add to that, I mean, we've said it, we've been very complimentary of Doug and Pat and the work that they've done 14 months, right? I mean, we have districts that come to us and say, we wanna vote in 8 months, and we go, okay, well, buckle up, But I think this is just a reflection, this decision and gathering data and using that to make a really informed decision, it's a reflection of the process. And so I think we're on board, we're here to support, we're always in favor of trying to fill those gaps with educating your public and, trying to differentiate between you know, weird things that exist with, you know, funding, misunderstandings of funding sources and, yeah, so, I think you guys continue to go through the right process, and, can commend you on that, so.
Joy, what do you have any thoughts you wanna?
My thoughts are very similar to everyone else's. I agree with Ray. I think that's, for many reasons, I think it's wise. And just looking at the scope.
Or,
Good decision.
I agree, I really appreciate the process that we've taken, really appreciate the process of getting this data and getting the information ahead of time. We can all really look at it, and I think we're doing the right thing. We're gonna be successful.
yeah, I look at, where people are getting their information from, and I see 2% have no source of information, I know who those people are. And then there's word of mouth at 27%. And so that gives us a huge opportunity, okay, and everyone should be walking the streets like I do, okay? I know you have jobs and stuff, but we all have, constituencies that are separate from everyone else. And one thing about this board, everybody on this board has the ability to clearly articulate a very strong message. And you have the ability to be able to do that, and you've shown that you will, because that's what it's gonna take. You've gotta do those types of things, and I know we have some built-in advantages. Nick's the chairman of the board at his church right now, so am I. So we have some people that trust us, and each and every one of you have folks like that trust you and don't know the rest of us. So we gotta make sure we're all on the same page, and I got that very enthusiastically and without question from each and every one of you, so I really appreciate that. And, you know, we may be making some changes in the scope, but if we do that, we'll do that as a group, and then we'll go from there. And I wanna commend Dr. Vanderjack, cause just me and him alone have spent probably 10 hours together talking about this over the last week, and he's also got a school district to run. And so a lot of good ideas and stuff, and you know, we're just ready to hit the road running and continue on what we've done over the last 14 months. So, is there anybody else who has anything they want to add to this?
So I will say, go ahead.
I was just, your next steps, timing of
Tomorrow.
So, kind of already started, this morning, to be honest with you. Not that I felt confident in the conversation tonight.
Yeah.
Sometimes the decision is more like, no, we can do this. Then we can, I know we can.
Yeah,
If you said,
for sure.
you know what, let's go in November, let's make a couple of tweaks, I know we can do it. I'm confident that we have the commitment of the board, of our administrative team, of our community to say, okay, let's get this done. It is important to make sure we listen to our community on things and take the right action. So that timing gets into, the first thing we do is really delay some of the meetings we had set with the Department of Treasury. If we were to continue that, we set those early. They're a lot easier to set early and cancel than to try to get in when the schedule's full. So we'll start doing that work as early as tomorrow and next week, and then starting to get next steps, the right people in the room. The team will continue to expand. Our team will continue to expand from who's in the room having conversations. We go from there. So over the next couple of weeks, we'd like to get through graduation, but between now and then, when you talk about there's still a district to run, when you have people around me like I have, that's what makes the job doable. I mean, I know at least 2 of them are sitting in this room, and the other 2 couldn't make it tonight, but it's amazing to watch the cabinet that you've allowed to be put in place work together. That's what makes it possible. You could not do this by yourself in any facet. So that's the fun part. And then you go to your building administrator, same thing, and then you talk about your teaching staff, who is by far the strongest teaching staff in the state. It's just fun to watch. And it's fun to watch your kids, I say your kids, because it's both your kids and your broader kids, in the classrooms. Spent a lot of time today in classrooms. And it's just fun to watch kids learning and teaching others, which is a whole other component. So with that, we have a tentative agenda for our next meeting on Thursday. one of the items was this decision to vote on, and we'll remove it from the board agenda. So that it doesn't take action to remove, take action right now, so we'll remove it from the agenda next week, Thursday. That does lead me to another, can I kind of move over a little bit to?
I just wanna say one more
Yeah.
thing, in listening to what Ken had said earlier, I think a lot of us think that if we put this thing up in November, we could get that, you know? But I think it's telling our clientele, our public, our voters that, you know what? We're gonna take a step back and we wanna really take a look at what you've told us and clearly understand that. So, I think what Ken mentioned was just another positive for our willingness to be able to sit back and say, okay, you know, could it be there's something we could do better? I don't think there's a right answer and a wrong answer here, but what we wanna do is come up with the best answer, and I think that's what we're prepared to do, so, go ahead, Dr. Van.
One thing I do, I know bonds pass, checks get cut, GMB and, OAK get paid, I got that, I understand all that. Be interesting to see what could be done between, and I know you guys just won't shut down and wait for a May election, I know the relationship with the district and so forth. I do think about some of the needs, like AC, I'm looking at Mr. Anderson, in our classrooms, and what planning can continue, albeit, you may not be getting paid, right, I got it, but what planning can continue around some of these initiatives in anticipation of a May pass. And so, it just brings us out of the gate that much quicker on some of these real needs that we have.
Let me try to address
Just a
that
thought.
in a quick second.
Sure, you guys.
I tell you, in our last bond issue,
Mhm.
we didn't have a passed bond at the point yet, but we had done a lot of work to prepare for putting a shovel in the ground, particularly at Forest Grove's parking lot.
Sure.
It happened right away,
Right.
right? That was next summer.
Baldwin's Road.
Baldwin's
Baldwin's
Road.
Road, yeah.
So there are things, I know it's a delay of 6 months, but that doesn't mean it's a 18-month
Right.
delay on the work. There are some things that if we are successful in May, and it's part of the scope, that summer, there'll be a lot of work being done. Even pre-design, some of the pre-meetings. So there's a lot of that work will still take place. We're not gonna, start ordering AC units, due respect to Mr. Anderson, but we'll definitely get a plan. And there are some things that we have to do anyway. And there are some things that maybe are sinking fund eligible that we'll have to make sure, we get done, between, November and May. Those are things we plan on.
Yeah, and I know we've always had a great relationship and done those things, so just, as much to tickle my own brain here, on that topic, so, yeah, thank you.
Okay, having said that, the May 14 meeting is a nice, fun meeting also. We are recognizing our state champion drumline.
When's
20
your question?
Percussion, 29 of them, a lot. Mrs. Armstrong is gonna help us celebrate the retirees. So the population of attendance and hires,
Oh, so we're gonna.
which adds another 2 people, no, so we have other, I don't know how many, there's a lot, I know there's a lot. So we're to a point that we're not sure this room really has the capacity to celebrate all those kids, so. For the right reasons, we'd like to move to the North Campus of the Media Center at the high school and make room for people that can be there. It'll look a little, the setup for those that, you might feel a little, why are we back here?
I like it here better than there.
Andrew remembers.
I do, yeah, so we'll plan on being over at the North Campus at the Media Center for our board meeting.
That's great, because I'll just slide right over to the concert.
That's why we did it, so you're right there.
Well, thank you.
We get that done from there. And then one last, piece of, item, if you could touch base with Pat, tonight before you leave. You have, Chromebooks in front of you, many of you do. Some of you have moved over to maybe a work or a personal device based on, working with Mr. Smucker. They're old, is in the life of a Chromebook, they're old. So if it's something you're like, you know what, I'm good with the one I have, or you're like, you know what, it might be time, it's still a Chromebook, so you can still access everything the same way you accessed it. but it is faster, it has a long battery life, I mean, all of those components to it. We started looking at this on Monday, and the conversation was, hey, let's talk to the board and see what their thoughts are. So I know it's not the context of the meeting tonight, but I've asked Pat to kind of get a feel for what the board feels, so we can get a hold of Mr. Smucker and kind of start that transition, going from there.
I'm supposed to be nice about it, but it's time.
So,
And I will be nice about it. That's all.
yeah, it's fine.
So what do you need from us?
Just if you're like, yep, I'm okay, let's update these things, or no, this is my baby, I'm so scared to get rid of this one.
Okay, so we don't have to have people come up to you. Joy, do you want a new one?
Certainly.
Okay, what about you? I'll take a new one, my battery went out last
You're
week.
6 years old. So-
You can use your work one, right?
I'm always coming from work, so. I can get a new one or not, doesn't really matter.
It's time.
Okay.
We can use that screen for other things.
Yeah, I can say, and the battery life does
Yeah.
tend to.
If you're offering a new one, I'll take it.
Thank you, sir.
I've never used mine, so I'll give you my old one back.
Okay,
5 and 2,
there you go.
got it. Thanks, Rob. Appreciate that.
And then I think, some of us have a meeting with Ann and some of us have a meeting with Pat, right? Okay.
So,
Team room?
team room for Pat's meeting, your office for you?
Yep.
And if,
There we go.
if you
Policy
don't,
meeting.
you don't get too fired up, we're gonna have a policy meeting coming up soon, so we'll get too, like, oh, look at this.
I'll head over to the art thing early.
Yeah.
I'll wait for all you there.
Yeah.
Don't have some dinner, will you? Just kidding.
Right, exactly, that's my thought, I'm going to get something dinner. I'm saying that.
Okay, I'm not gonna go around the table here. I'm gonna ask for a motion to adjourn.
So,
Andrew,
Support that.
Nick, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any discussion? Okay, we're adjourned.